I've lived alone in this house for 3 years now. It's an old place, nothing special, just a small cabin in the middle of nowhere. The nearest town is 30 miles away, and my closest neighbor is a good 10 miles down the road. It's quiet out here, peaceful even. At least, that's what I used to think. The first year was uneventful. I spent my days working remotely, and my evenings sitting on the porch, watching the sun set behind the tree line. The nights were dark, darker than anything I'd ever experienced before moving here, with no street lights, no city glow, just the stars and the moon. It felt like stepping into another world every time I turned off the lights. But I never felt uneasy. Not yet. It started with small things. Objects weren't where I'd left them. A chair slightly pulled out from the table. My keys on the counter instead of by the door. I brushed it off at first, absent-mindedness, maybe. But then, one night, I heard something outside. A low, distant sound, like someone calling my name. I told myself it was the wind, or maybe a coyote in the distance. But deep down I knew better. There was a strange quality to the sound, something almost familiar, like a voice I should recognize but didn't. I didn't sleep much that night. Over the next few weeks, it got worse. Shadows moving just outside my window, even when there was no wind. Footsteps crunching on the gravel driveway in the middle of the night. The worst was the knocking. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the front door at exactly 3:12 a.m. The first time, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe an animal brushing up against the wood. But it happened again the next night, and the night after that, always at 3:12 a.m. I stopped opening the door. Then last week, I found something on my porch, a single footprint. Not mine, not from any animal I recognized. It was deep, almost clawed, pressed hard into it like something heavy had stood there, watching. And last night, I finally saw it. Last night, I finally saw it. It was just past midnight, and I had been lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, too uneasy to sleep. The usual sounds filled the night. The wind rustling through the trees, the distant call of an owl. But then everything went silent, completely and utterly silent. Even the wind had stopped. That's when I heard the footsteps, slow, deliberate, moving across the porch. I held my breath, straining to hear. The sound was heavier than before, like something massive shifting its weight with each step. My pulse pounded in my ears as I reached for the flashlight on my nightstand. I didn't want to look. Every instinct in my body told me to stay still, to pretend I wasn't there. Then came the knock. 3 times. Slow, rhythmic, 3:12 a.m. I gripped the flashlight tightly, barely breathing. And then, for the first time, I heard something new, a whisper. It came from the other side of the door, low and distorted, like someone trying to speak through a broken radio. Let me in. The words were barely audible, but I felt them more than I heard them. They sent a chill crawling up my spine, my skin prickling with an overwhelming sense of wrongness. I didn't move. I couldn't. And then the doorknob turned. Slowly, deliberately, I bolted upright, heart hammering against my ribs. The lock held, but the metal creaked under the pressure, as if whatever was out there wasn't testing the door. It was expecting it to open. I had left my shotgun by the fireplace. If I moved fast, I could grab it. But then, just as suddenly as it started, the sound stopped. The doorknob stilled. The weight on the porch shifted. Then footsteps, not retreating down the steps, not moving toward the driveway. They circled the house. Once, twice, slow, deliberate, then silence. I sat frozen, flashlight clutched in my shaking hands, waiting for anything to happen. Minutes passed, then an hour. Finally, as dawn broke, I forced myself to move. I opened the front door. The footprint was still there, but now there were more. A perfect circle of deep, clawed impressions surrounding the house. And carved into the wooden door, as if traced by a razor-sharp claw, were 3 words. I see you. For the rest of the day, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every shadow in the forest seemed deeper, every sound sharper, as if the whole world was holding its breath. I thought about packing up and leaving, just getting in my truck and driving until I saw streetlights again. But something about the message on the door made me hesitate. I see you. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a warning. It was a statement, a fact. Leaving wouldn't change that. That night, I locked every door, every window. I even moved a chair in front of the door, as if that would stop whatever was out there. I sat in the living room, shotgun in my lap, eyes fixed on the front door. I wasn't going to sleep. I wasn't going to let it catch me off guard. But sometime after midnight, I must have dozed off. A sound woke me. Not the knocking, not the whisper. Breathing, deep, slow, right outside the window. I turned my head, heart slamming against my ribs. The curtains were drawn, but the faint glow of the moon outlined something standing on the other side of the glass. Tall, unnaturally tall. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The thing on the other side exhaled again, slow and measured, like it was waiting for me to react. Then something pressed against the glass. A hand. No, not a hand. Fingers, too long, too thin, ending in sharp, curved nails. They tapped against the glass once, twice, 3 times. And then, slowly, impossibly, they started to drag downward, scraping the surface with a sound that sent ice through my veins. I clenched the shotgun tighter, my whole body locked in place. I knew, somehow, I just knew, that if I moved, if I even blinked, it would react. It would know I saw it, and then it whispered, not from the window, from inside the house. Let me in. I couldn't move. The voice had come from right behind me. Close. Too close. A cold wave of dread washed over me as I forced myself to turn my head, inch by inch, toward the dark hallway leading to my bedroom. The shotgun felt useless in my grip. What good was a weapon against something that could be inside without ever opening a door? The hallway stretched before me, pitch black. My breath came in shallow gasps. Then movement, a shift in the darkness, a shape just barely visible in the dim light from the window. Tall, unnaturally tall. It was standing at the end of the hall, motionless, watching. I couldn't see its face, but I felt its gaze, felt it burrowing into me. And then it stepped forward, a single, slow step. The floor didn't creak beneath its weight. It made no sound. It just moved, gliding closer, its limbs unfolding like a puppet on invisible strings. The whisper came again, but this time it wasn't a question. You're mine. That was it. The last thing I remember before everything went black. When I woke up, the sun was streaming through the windows. I was lying on the floor, the shotgun still in my grip, my whole body stiff and cold. For a moment I hoped it had all been a dream. Then I saw the door. The words were gone. The deep claw marks had vanished, as if they'd never been there. The footprints on the porch? Gone. The window clean. No trace of what had stood outside, watching me. But something was different. The air in the house felt wrong. Heavier, charged with something unseen, like the walls had absorbed whatever had been here. I stood up on shaky legs, my head pounding. The clock on the wall read 3:12 p.m. 12 hours. Gone. I wanted to believe it was over, that whatever had happened was finished. But last night, as I lay in bed, too afraid to close my eyes, I heard it again. The knock. 3 slow, deliberate taps. And this time it came from inside the house.